Hey everybody, welcome back to Knit Case Designs. If you watched my video yesterday, then we made a full soap tutorial with a vegan recipe that was designed to be very easy, on a dime. My dogs look like they're going to play, so if you hear something in the background, that's them. So in that video we talked about all sorts of things. We did the recipe. My camera angle sucked, frankly. The camera kept slipping and I didn't notice, and what are you gonna do? Anywho, you saw a lot of the main stuff, which is important, and of course the dialogue is what's probably more important. We talked about lye safety, we talked about inexpensive oils that you can use, we talked about the process, how to measure everything, kind of the order in which you do things for cold process soap making, and just kind of get a single sort of product made that is utilizing elements of design, that is utilizing a recipe that is quality, you know, and fun things to make it fun and entertaining. So this is the soap that we made yesterday. It was from the Easy-Peasy cold process soap tutorial. It is made with lavender essential oil. Let's see, what are the oils in here? It's olive oil, coconut oil, shea butter, and canola oil. Did I say that already? Yeah. No. Coconut oil, olive oil, shea butter, canola oil. Coconut and canola shouldn't have similar names. And then what we did was we left the soap its sort of natural color, which you can see here. It has dried to this very lovely off-white. And then if you recall, I split off about half the soap and put in a teaspoon of bentonite clay, which would discolor, obviously, some of the soap to a gray, which we're going to interpret as sort of a lavender gray. It is kind of a lavender gray. You guys, knock it off. Get out of here. Stop. Sorry, little policing happening with my children. So, obviously you can see this is a silicone mold that I got from Brambleberry. Love this for samples. Love this for things like what we did, where it was a nice size sample tutorial. This will make about 4 bars on my multi-bar 1-inch cutter. We had a little bit left over that I put in a silicone cupcake liner. This is great if you don't have a mold handy, but you have some of these. Like, these are great. They just pull right off. This is still a little bit soft. This is a pretty thin material, and the recipe that we're using does not have a super high concentration of hard oils. So it's going to take a little bit longer before we can kind of unmold this one. My standard recipe, I never have issues with it unmolding. I can usually go within sometimes 10 hours, sometimes 12, never usually more than 24. This one we are going to unmold now because it has been 24 hours since we made this, and I want to do it on camera because if it has any issues, that gives us a lot of things to talk about in terms of like waiting to take things out of the mold, ways that you can make your bars harder, faster, so they want to unmold easier, how to deal with like a soap that's difficult to unmold, things like that. So, first let me talk about my bar cutter, because I'm going to move this out of the way and get to the soap unmolding. This is from Bud's Woodshop. You can see his name right here. I don't know if you can actually see it. You can. This is beautiful. It's made of wood. It uses guitar wire and guitar tuners. Oops, bumping my camera. And guitar tuners, so these just twist, and you use that to tighten them. Bud on his Etsy shop gives you the option of a few different sizes of bars. I chose 1-inch bars because I think that's a perfect size, but you can do like 1.5-inch bars, 2-inch bars. It's really up to you. I bought this because obviously trying to become more of a legitimate professional business, like I need something that I can cut several bars at once. And I do have a mold. This usually makes a perfect 10 bars out of my 2-pound loaf mold. I do have a large mold that I got from Nurture Soap, and that does cut, I think, 18 bars. And this works really well. It'll cut like 12 of them, and then you have a little hanging off the back, and then you just put that in there, do the same. You do not have to own one of these. This was expensive. I have, it has paid for itself time and again for me. If this is something that's going to be more like a 4 bars at a time sort of hobby for you, you do not need to own this. You can just use like a non-serrated kitchen knife, like a chef's knife, something sharp. They sell soap cutters literally everywhere. Hobby Lobby, Walmart, you can find them at Michael's. I don't know, Joann's probably would carry them, maybe. No, they're not really a craft store. But anywhere you can get crafts, you can usually find a soap cutter. And it's usually just like a flat edge with a handle, and they'll also sell like crinkle cut ones, so if you like a little wavy texture. I don't, but if you do. You can also get single bar cutters that are like this, so they just cut one at a time, but they're also made of wood, and they cut with a wire. I've seen people use cheese cutters, so it's like a piece of marble or wood, and they'll just like measure, and they'll mark somewhere on there like how big they want their bars, and then it's a little hammer, or not hammer, little arm that they pull down with a wire on it, and it cuts through. Be advised, these wire cutters are only good for like cold process, hot process, things like that. Never use a cutter like this on melt and pour soap. It's too hard, and it really shouldn't be done. Similarly, if you are using this on cold process or hot process soap, you need to do it as soon as you unmold. Like, don't wait halfway through your curing process to cut a loaf of soap. As it gets harder, it's going to be harder on the wires, and you can pop them. They can hit you in the eye. No bueno. Also, you would have to replace them, which, thankfully, knock on wood, I've never had to replace a wire on this thing, and I've had it like a year and a half. But times come. So with that out of the way, I'm going to move this over here for now. We'll get it in a second, and we're going to go ahead and unmold this. So when you're unmolding your soap, it's nice to just kind of like gently tug away at the sides, just to kind of expose those sides to the air. And then on the bottom, there's actually like, it's an air lock. So you have to break that seal. And it's not hard, it's just, the nice thing about this mold is it's got this fat lip on it, so you can just kind of like tuck it a little at an angle. And you sort of like push. And you can see it's starting to come out. So I've broken the airlock. And then once you kind of ease it out, don't go fast. You're not in a hurry. Because the more you try and rush this, you can damage your soap, especially if it's like a softer soap. You can really mess it up. And you don't want to walk away with a bunch of dents in your soap. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hand underneath and just sort of start shimmying. And then boom, pops right out. So here you can see the edges are nice and sharp. The corners are not super soft. It's a little bit shiny, and that's good. That means it went through at least partial gel phase. We'll know more when we cut it open. But if it were a really soft recipe, or if it didn't saponify properly, like if your lye oil ratio was off, then you would definitely know. Like, you might have oil around, like if it's separated out, it would like get really, gummy, and not come out of the mold very easily. This has definitely happened to me before. Ways to combat that, if you do have that problem in your recipe, there are a couple things you can do. I like to use a water discount, so I take some of the water, a percentage of the water, out of my recipe, and so that allows it to just harden up a little faster. It does affect my trace while I'm soap making, so I try not to do it too often. Or, I'm sorry, I try not to do it with new recipes. Obviously with this one, we went with the full water, and it worked out perfectly. But I also use a couple of other things, like lanolin does add a little bit of hardness to a soap, and things like that. If you don't want to take any of the water out, then you can totally use what's called sodium lactate. And what that'll do is, like, it's you use a tiny amount of it, and it just acts as a hardener. Like, it hardens your bar, helps it unmold, helps you cut it, makes nice clean bars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to cut it. And I'm just going to use my multi-bar cutter because that's what I like. So for this, since you have all these beautiful things on the top, you don't want to drag them through the soap. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on its side. And we'll see if I can't... You know what, I'll just line it up on the edge. That'll be fine. Well, I don't want to cut that much off. So I'm centering it between these two lines so that we don't cut too much off. You could push it up into the corner, but you'll end up with a little piece of soap cut off. And that's usually fine. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I do that literally every time. And that's totally fine. But I'm excited to cut it, see what's inside. This is a great recipe. Hopefully there's great stuff inside that we can also talk about. If you haven't gotten the theme yet, we're talking about stuff today. Alright, let's go. So this is just going to cut through like butter. So make sure, push that a little bit that way. So it's going to cut off just the tiniest bit on each end. Oop. You can see my bars are a little wider than I would normally make. And so my cutter just cut off like the whole corner. Oops. I don't normally use this mold, like cut this mold this way, so that's stupid. Good job, James. Alright. It's alright, it's character. Okay, so ignoring the, corner cut out of it, this is what we have going on inside. You can see, hopefully in the camera you can see well enough, how shiny, like how very clear these sort of lines are, or the colors are. So it did go through gel phase. You'll know gel phase when you see it, because oftentimes your soap, if you do not insulate it, so when we insulate it, we just mean like you would take your mold, put it in a box, or cover it with a towel to keep the heat in. And what it does is, like, it maintains the heat so that the soap gels. It produces more glycerin, which is very shiny and pretty, and evenly dispersed through the soap makes the whole thing look very shiny and pretty. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, it's very subtle, but I think it only went through partial gel phase. So it went through gel phase in the middle, which is where the heat is most concentrated, and then it spreads out. But if you've got these sides of your mold exposed to cool temperatures like silicone would be, then you might run into something like this. But this is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I think these are just lovely bars of soap. I was kind of hoping for some glycerin rivers so we could look at those and talk more about them. But I ain't mad. The less glycerin rivers you deal with, the best. Some people really like them. I've embraced them. Like, if they show up in a recipe of mine and I wasn't planning for it, like, it doesn't break my heart. But it's not my favorite. Another thing people will do, and you can totally do this too, is like you'll take like a potato peeler and like bevel the edges just to make it sort of rounded. And that's totally fine. Do it. Live your dream. Golly, that's cute. And the soap is still very soft. Like, you don't want to go like squeezing it or throwing it at anybody. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway. And do not use this straight up. This has to cure, since we use the full amount of water and we made the whole process method. it needs to cure for 4 to 6 weeks before using, packaging, or selling. So it's going to sit on my dining room table, which you guys have already seen a photo of, and cure. So that's what's going to happen with that. So I kind of love how that little corner got taken out. These are just little soap ends. People keep these. You can use them in confetti projects, something like that. I am going to lament. Look at that. Look how much soap I lost. Oh my gosh. That's alright. I'll let that cure too, and I'll just use it myself. And then for this guy, we're just going to pop her out just to look at it. Our little puck. So these are cute. I love making things in like those silicone molds, or those little silicone cupcake liners. Because I love the little ridges. I love using them for my extra soap. Mostly just because I'm the only one that uses them. And they last, I don't know, for me they last about a week. But I also shower like twice a day because I work in a place where I get dirty. So, you know, let that cure. I don't think I'm going to keep these, but I'm going to keep the big chunks. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. But you know what? This is a good opportunity to talk about accidents happen. Like, as I mentioned, I do not cut things coming out of this mold that way. So it came as an absolute surprise to me just now that I was going to cut the corner off my soap. Might be. But anywho, so I think what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to do another soap tutorial. I have been just dying to revisit hot process soap. So this, in the opposite way that cold process soap allows the natural heat produced by the exothermic reaction of the saponification process, in hot process soap, you do not let the heat just naturally dissipate on its own. You continue to force heat through the medium of a crock pot, basically. And as you're forcing the heat, you're forcing your soap through gel phase, and actually through the curing phase, a large portion of the curing phase, so that your soaps can be ready to use within about a week or two, because you're cooking out a lot of the water, and the lye, since it's going through that gel phase, will be completely worked in. The drawbacks to hot process that I have experienced are a little lacking in the design department. It is a little harder to maneuver because it does not stay liquid. There are methods you can use to make it more fluid. That's really what I want to practice, but I'm not going to make you watch me practice that. I'm just going to do a normal hot process soap tutorial. They're very cottagey, they're fun, and you can make soap that you can turn around and use really quickly. So if you have to make anything like gifts for a wedding or like a holiday, and you're like, oh no, I don't have 6 weeks to devote to letting them dry out, hot process might be a really good avenue for you. So that's it for this tutorial, this cutting video. I hope you love these soaps as much as I do. And I think what I might do is, since we made this, I might, when they're cured, do a giveaway. Let me know if that'd be something that you would be interested in, and I'll be sure to work it in. And then maybe we can get some of these bars out to people, because that'd be fun. You know what? I am going to keep this. I just keep picking off soap, and it's like making a whole other bar. So right now, this is basically dough. So I'm just going to like roll it into a ball. Sort of smash it. Very professional. Or shoot, you know, you guys, I might just use this myself. I don't know. I'm torn because I love it. It's beautiful. Anyway, let me know if you love this, if you hate it. If you do decide to try it, please let me know. Share photos of it on Instagram, email me, call me, physically, I don't know. Hunt me down on the street if you know me. Because I'd love to see what you make. That's all for this one. Let me know if you enjoy, and we'll see you here for the next one. Thanks.